All right, let us say hello once again to one of the big stars of this past Saturday's UFC Vegas 16 event. He makes his UFC debut, and 22 seconds later, it was over, following a vicious slam knockout of Matt Wiman. Jordan Leavitt back on the program. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I would say so. Congratulations, by the way. And it's funny, there are times where I watch fights happen, and I remember having conversations with the fighters in the cage, you being one of them, watching this fight happen. I remember the first time I actually interviewed you, it's probably like a year and a half ago, and you were this guy that had this great personality. You were a little outside of the box, and you were having such a hard time just finding somebody to fight you. Like, you were calling out everybody around the country. You were getting maybe a fight a year. Fast forward to now, you fought 5 times since then, got on the Contender Series, got a contract with the UFC, and now you get your first UFC win. This thing moved along pretty quickly, did it not?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I went from averaging a fight a year to having 5 fights in the calendar year, 4 fights in 2020, even when the 4 of the months were completely canceled. Baby on the way, bought a dog. Like, 2020 has been the best year of my life so far. I went from having no luck to all the luck.
It's crazy, man. And one other thing that really stuck out about that conversation is, besides you calling out every 55er in the sport, was when I asked you what your goal was in fighting at the time, it wasn't like going to the UFC or going this way or being a world champion. You very nonchalantly said, and I'm somewhat paraphrasing here, you know what? I just want to get a knockout. Like, I've got a bunch of submissions. I just want to know what it feels like to get a knockout. And while this may not have been the knockout you envisioned, or, maybe it was, how does it feel a few days later now that you've accomplished that and you did it in the UFC of all places?
Right? I mean, it took until my 12th fight to get a knockout, and it was on the biggest stage on a main card in the UFC. I didn't see it coming that way, especially like via Rampage Slam. I definitely don't train for that one, so that was cool.
I'll be honest, when I heard you were fighting Matt Wiman, I didn't know what to think about it, because Matt was a guy like a lot of people had their eye on at 155 before he took that like several year hiatus away from the sport. But since he came back, he got beat up pretty bad by Luis Pena, then Joe Selecki. What did you think of the matchup when it was presented to you? When you saw Matt Wiman's name on the contract, what did you think?
It was really weird because I used to be a really big fan of him when I was younger. I feel like a lot of the tactics he used were like 10 years ahead of the time. He would drop him for leg locks. He would pull guard. He would do single leg scrambles. Like, he did a lot of stuff that I really thought was interesting that I still implement today. So when I saw his name, I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, one of my favorites. So I had mixed feelings coming into this fight. I was saying, I don't want to get knocked out by Matt Wiman, but I don't want to knock Matt Wiman out. And I was like, he's never been submitted before. So I was planning on him being rugged and me having to ride out a decision. So the fight was pretty anticlimactic. I got pretty lucky and fortunate with that slam, and it was a kind of a scary knockout. And yeah, I hope I never have to win by that way again. But if it's the opportunity presents itself, I will slam you. But yeah, it's weird, man.
That's crazy. And, like you said, you brought up an interesting point. Like, you went for the takedown immediately, and your corner basically said, bring him over here. You did that.
And then I said, where are you? Let's bring him over here. And then the lights are on you. So there's that stage blindness. And I'm like, where are you? And then I think Matt began to chuckle. And then I kind of cut it off. But I was like, where are you? And then dumped him. Woods said that was the most Jordan-esque knockout it could have ever been. He's like, it went from playful to scary real quick.
It was funny because you could actually see that moment. I didn't even hear you say, where are you? But you could see the moment. You're like, oh yeah, I see you. Like, your eyes opened up a little wider. It's hilarious now that you say that. But he was, as you're looking for this takedown, he's trying to maintain balance, it looked like. But then he wrapped his legs around you as if he wanted to pull guard, and you adjusted your forearm, and that was a wrap. Were you surprised that his defense before the slam was to attempt to pull guard? I would imagine going to the ground, even though he's very difficult to submit, would be the last thing he'd want to do against you. Kind of walk us through that moment and what you were feeling at the time.
So I shot in on his hips, and I could have finished the takedown right there. but I didn't want him to fall to his guard because he kind of just holds you down and he'll saw you out in his guard. And I didn't want to be elbowed on the top of the head for an entire round. So he went to pull initially, but I picked him up to stop him from pulling guard. And so when I picked him up, he tried to, finally start to sprawl. By that time, my hands were locked and he couldn't get his feet to the ground. Like I was able to get like a nice little Matt Hughes type of lift. And then I think he kind of just like conceded, okay, I'll just follow him. I'll lock in my guards. Then that way I could, control where the fight goes. But as soon as he locked it, I locked in that Gerald Harris like cross face and just, hit him with the earth.
I do want to address one thing that some folks, I guess, have had an issue with this whole thing. It was the celebration afterwards. And first off, let me just say my piece here first. Kudos to you for having the wherewithal to know Matt was done after the slam, and also leaving the cage to console Matt's wife in the corner outside of it. I thought that was amazing. Some people had an issue with the splits and the celebration afterwards because Matt was out like a light. He was out cold. Personally, I didn't have much of an issue with it, Jordan, because like others, because I've been talking to you for a while. I've been following your career for a while. That's what you do when you win. This is nothing new. This wasn't I just got a knockout, let me do a split. You do this pretty much every time you win. I'm also taking into account that I'm not a fighter. I have no idea what goes on in that cage other than what I see on television. But for those who may have had an issue with the celebration, is that something you want to address at all?
I mean, sure. I mean, these were the same people that loved it when Jorge Masvidal bodied Ben Askren, then patted the ground. These are the same people that love it when there's just blood everywhere. So, I mean, screw them. Their opinion doesn't mean much. They're very fickle. I'm sure if I would have gotten knocked out, he would have jumped on the cage. He would have screamed at the camera. But, you fall into a quick split, and then you walk to the cage, realize he's not waking up right away. And then they go to commercial break because you're crying. And it's like, oh, you're the bad guy. And I'm like, this is an ugly sport. And I was upset by the way I won, but literally there are many more brutal knockouts of that all the time, and these people cheer for it. So it's like, your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer kind of thing. It was hard for me, and not as hard for me as it was for Matt or his wife. But I waited for him to wake up, and then I did the Dirty Dancing lift. And then the reason I did it twice is because Bruce Buffer's like, come on, I missed it. You have to do it. And when Bruce Buffer asks you something, I'm like, okay, Bruce, I've been wanting to talk to you since I've been 14. Okay, this lift's for you. But I can understand by the way it was cut, it could seem tasteless. But in reality, if you've been watching this sport for longer than 24 hours, you see some pretty distasteful things. So it's a little, I'm sorry if I offended people, but then also grow up.
It's fighting.
Yeah, it's fighting. Like a fist fight's totally fine. Cutting them open, knocking them out, breaking their legs, fine. You can't do a laughable dance afterwards. I don't know, man.
I don't even like. It was just. I think it was just the split, and maybe like some people like didn't realize that you went there. There was a commercial break, and then the Dirty Dancing thing happens. Like maybe some people didn't realize that happened like after Matt woke up and all of that stuff, which was awesome, by the way. How did Bruce react once he saw it the second time? What did he say to you?
He said, oh, ballet's your base, huh? And I'm like, it's the best base for fighting.
Plus on top of that, like after that time, you had to have known that an extra 50 G's, there's a good chance that was coming your way too, right? Like you're about to become a dad. That's kind of a game changer, is it not?
Yeah, we've been looking at apartments the past few days, and I basically just plan on getting a lease, paying out the lease for an entire year. I've never had that stability ever in my life. I've never been able to enjoy knowing that for a year, me and my family would be okay. And yeah, that 50 G's is really a game changer to life changer. I get to bring my daughter into the world when I don't have to worry about paying the bills. I may even be able to spend like a few weeks just with my family, and anything's worth that. I'd do anything for that. So definitely a game changer.
May I ask what you said to Matt's wife on the outside?
I didn't know exactly what to say. I just said, I'm sorry, and because I was sorry. I just said I'm sorry that I won that way. And then she was very, very composed, And she just said, it's the fight game. It happens. And which kind of made me feel worse. I'm like, she's cool with it, but I'm not cool with it. But yeah, I just said, I'm sorry. And then I said, your husband's a good man. And then, you know, I'm not sure if she reached out to hug me or I reached out to hug her. I don't know. If I reached out to hug her, I guess that was kind of weird. But yeah, then I went back in the cage. But yeah, I just said, I'm sorry. I'm not sure. I wasn't quite sure what you should say.
Yeah. Did you have a chance to talk to Matt at all? I know he was kind of out of it, but did you guys get to exchange words at all before you left the cage?
We weren't able to talk, but I got a message for him, and then I got a message back to him. But that's about all. I just, you know, thanked him for his career, and we just, you know, he gave a quick little message back. I don't think there's any bad blood there. He's never been that type of person. We're both religious people. We're both very soft-spoken, and I don't imagine there's any bad blood, and I hope there's not. And yeah, that's all you could hope for.
Yeah, I didn't think there would be bad blood there, but maybe, you know, you mentioned, I mean, this is a crazy year. You've taken advantage of it in a big way. You have an octagon debut that lasts 22 seconds, took absolutely zero damage. There's a lot of folks. I mean, I see that. Where did that happen?
My forearm hit myself in the face with my forearm. You know, I'm a dangerous person. I'm hurting people and I'm hurting myself.
I didn't know if that was like from training or something. I don't know, but that's hilarious. There's a lot of folks who would say, like, in your position, I'm ready. I'll fight this week, next week. Just get me on a card. You and your wife are about to welcome your first child into the world in February. And you basically said after the fight, like, I want to spend this final trimester with my wife. I'll worry about fighting after that. First of all, as a dad myself, completely respect that 100%. Is there anything that would get you to fight before that?
I suppose if like something on the 19th card was perfect for me and I jump on last minute, you know, the only thing better than 50K to support your family is 100K. So, I mean, it's worth the risk. But yeah, that's the only card that I feasibly see a chance of me hopping onto. But that seems mostly unlikely. But it's also 2020, so we'll see. But no, I'm gonna be a helpmeet for my wife the last trimester. She's been a trooper this entire time, making my meals as she like couldn't even like keep down solid food and making sure that I'm okay. Like my fight career could take a hold for 2.5 months.
So March, April, something in that time frame you're thinking about?
You know, 2 weeks after that baby's here, I'm down to go into quarantine again. I'm excited to fight again. I want to see what fights are open at that time, and I don't know. We'll see. We'll see who will sign on. We'll see who will sign on the dotted line.
Is there anybody that kind of sticks out to you? I mean, it's interesting that you fight Matt Wiman, a guy that when you were growing up, he's a guy that you watch and kind of took some of your game away from and kind of used it as your own. Is there anybody else on the roster that you're just like, not, there's no bad blood here, obviously, unless there is, but just like, man, I want to fight this guy. Like I've been a fan of his or something like that. Is there anybody that kind of makes sense for you right now in terms of a next opponent?
No, no one really comes to mind. And I know that's very generic. I'll fight anybody. I can't think of like, I've only been in this division for like 6 months. I was always looking at the 45 division and be like, oh, I'd like to fight that person when I get in. Like, I'm still just a fanboy of the 55 division. I don't know. We'll see who has bad blood for me because I don't need bad blood to fight anybody. It's just a fist fight, man. Yeah, hopefully someone will call me out. I don't have to be weird about that. I would love for someone to just call me out. But okay, cool. That's a fight. Sean Shelby, let's do it.
You know that's coming, right?
I'm hoping they want to knock out Split Boy. They're gonna put Baby in the corner. We'll see what dance he does when I put him to sleep. I'm ready for the very generic call outs. I mean, let's do it.
I remember the last time we talked, it was right before the Contender Series fight. And I asked you what that contract would mean to you. And you said, you know, you mentioned how much you want to support your family, but it was a really powerful thing that you said that I've remembered ever since. You said, I just want to be less embarrassed when I tell people I'm a fighter. Mission accomplished?
Yeah, mission accomplished.
How does that feel?
A little weird. There's a lot of people that doubt you when you do things that are different and risky, and people you love and people you love who are worried about you, and people you hate who just will talk down to anything you do. Got a lot of negative feedback this entire time, and I don't hear them now. They're just like echoes that are just fading more and more in the distance because they were wrong. I got to prove them wrong. And it's nice to, I can't wait to see them. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, congrats, man. I'm really happy for you. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, man. I'm happy to not be embarrassed anymore. It's happy to know that I wasn't deluded or silly or just, someone who was just chasing a dream with no real basis to be chasing it. It's a nice place to be in.
Last thing before I let you go, I know you're not a fan of like the knockout memes that have been going around. I'm sure that probably bothers you, but there are some brilliant ones with the Dirty Dancing lift. They did after the decision, the Swayze one, doing the hoisting. I mean, seeing things like that and fans taking time to like make stuff like that and put you in there, that's got to be pretty cool to see, right?
Oh, that's a dream come true, man. I've always wanted to be a meme. I grew up as like a part of the meme generation. That's how we send jokes. That's how we post our political views. That's how we put people down. Becoming a meme is like immortality to my generation. So that's kind of cool. Oh yeah, I love the Dirty Dancing memes. I love the split memes. Yeah, I don't like the videos of the slam. It kind of makes me cringe. I've only watched my fight once. It makes me uncomfortable. But oh yeah, the memes and the comments on Reddit and stuff, the funny jokes. Oh, I live for it. It's a dream come true.
Unbelievable, man. Congratulations. And it's funny. One of the things I tell young journalists or those that are trying to get their feet wet in this crazy sport of ours, interview everybody, because it's such a great feeling when you see somebody you chatted with on the regional scene get to the UFC and find success, and seeing you have the year you're having and getting there. I'm just really happy for you, man. Enjoy the downtime with the wife. Wishing you a very happy holiday. Excited to talk to you again about the wonderful world of fatherhood before your next fight. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you, Mike. You have a good one.